I don't even remember what started the conversation, but it ended up with her issuing the challenge. Can I fill an entire album with layouts made only from scraps? Here are the ingredients for making page number 8 with only scraps. Let's see what we come up with. I'll be using this index sheet, and the reason I'm trying to use them is because they do make my album lighter, because I do use a lot of top loading refill pages, and I usually have heavier materials like cardstock behind my layouts. So I have these two pieces, and I have no idea why they are two pieces cut the sizes that they are, but they're 8 inches tall. One is 7 inches, one is 5 inches. And I think I could put them together and hide this seam. I have this from Beach Scenes. I think I could put that there. I have this other piece from Beach Scenes. Not sure what I might do with that. And I have this, looks like about a just under 6 inch, just over 6 inches tall by 12-inch wide light blue. And as I'm looking at the light blue now, I'm not liking this with that. So let's see what the plan will be. Let's look at my photos. And I have some photos that look to be sort of duplicates. That's a 3.5 by 5. Here's another 3.5 by 5. And then this is looks like about a 3 by 6. Now if I could cover up that seam with this photo, this photo and this photo look so much alike that I actually think I actually like that one better. And this photo and that photo are the same thing. This is just zoomed in, so I like the closer in photo better. Wonder what I can do with this. I wish it was longer, and actually I like that. Let's see what that looks like. Even though it shows some white around the edge here. Now what I could do is trim this top down to the same width and give it that look on the top and the bottom. But my concern is that this disjoint right here would show more. Another thing I could do, because this dark blue paper has no direction, what if I orient the page like this and cut this down to be the same width as that? I kind of like that. I think I like that. And I can put an embellishment close to right here to cover up that seam. But I think I'm going to do something else. I like this. And I think I'm going to trim everything down, trim my photos. But this time I want a top loading refill page. So I'm going to pull this out and use it. So here's my arrangement. I'm going to cut 2 inches off of this sheet of paper, and I've decided to put the shorter piece on the top and the larger piece on the bottom, because I believe I can cover up that seam with these two pictures and not have to worry about having some of the seam showing. I can cover practically all of it, and it's essentially invisible. I am so thrilled that the size of these strips, which are 2 inches, just make it the perfect fit. And what I have are these little 2" by 1" white spots in my corners, which are, I think, attractive. So I'm going to take 2" off of this strip to make it the same size. So it looks like I'm going to have the slightest amount of overlap right here. So what I want to do is to put my light blue strips under my darker blue paper. So I'm going to lift up my darker blue paper so that it is on the top. Let's see if I have something similar on this side. I'll just go ahead and put that under to start with. I really like this page. I could make this over and over again. This is just 8" by 12" and then the 2" wide strips on the left and right that are 10" tall. And now let's see where we'll put our photos. I'm deliberately covering this seam and it will hardly be noticeable. These pictures were printed with a white frame around them. I think I want a white frame around this one also. So let me find something to mat that with. I found the remains of another index sheet, which I'm going to use to be a mat on this photo. The photo is a little large, but since there's nothing but water, I'm going to trim a little bit more away from the photo so it can fit on this scrap. So this paper is about 3.5 inches wide. And now I'm going to cut it at 6.25. Or so, I'll cut it at 6.5 to begin with. Yeah, I think I want this to be 6.25. Now that I've matted this and this, I think I have a great base layout here. And I'm going to adhere my photos down and then figure out my title and any embellishments I want to put on this page. I'm really enjoying this new ruler that fits very nice and snugly over the 13 by 13" mat. It is making positioning my photo so much faster and easier. And they are more uniform as well. Well, this is an unexpected surprise. I'm once again putting this seam right here, which means I'm totally covering up seam on the blue, which is, in my opinion, a good thing. I believe I'm going to put a border along the bottom of the page right here. So I have this is from Serene Water, and it reminds me of those little cheese fish crackers. And it frankly isn't my favorite piece of paper because it's little cheese crackers on both sides. Okay, creative memories. This is one time you let me down. I don't mind having a design like this that I think is hard to use on one side of the page, but they did the same design on both sides of the page. So whenever I have paper with a design in it that I'm not particularly fond of, I think of ways to run it through a punch, and hopefully run it through a punch in a manner that takes away what the shapes were. And in this case, I think I want the gray color to be the color. And I love my border maker system. I'm going to use my usual start on the second one to keep that little edge there intact so it doesn't jam. Now, you're hard pressed to see that these are little fishes. And it really does dress up the page nicely. I think that that was the perfect border for this layout. I'm going to go ahead and adhere it. Now, this being a scrap, there was a little damage or crease to the paper right here. It's not very noticeable. My last step is to put on a title and some embellishments. I tend to be a diagonal embellisher. I don't do the visual triangle very often on a single page. I may do it on a two-page spread because it does help bring your eye across the page. But on a two-page spread, I think diagonal has always been pleasing to my eye. And I don't feel pressured to put a third element on the page. Yeah, sometimes I think people think it's a hard and fast rule, you must do it, and then they end up putting the embellishment clusters in a place that doesn't look natural. For me, the natural embellishment clusters are based on how much space I have in terms of the size of the cluster, and trying more for a diagonal that just makes sense. And I usually try to find one spot for a cluster, one spot for the title, and embellish around my title. This mess is me preparing to make some embellishments. I pulled out some punches and some scraps. Let's see what I come up with. I'm going to start. This is old company creative memories. This is back on when they had single-sided paper. And I just thought this gray would make a nice anchor. One of the things I'm trying to be careful about is not to introduce new colors. Now this is so small. I want to make a notched banner, but it's not going to fit into my ribbon punch by itself. It's time for a post-it note. That makes a nice base. I want the compass. Well, that went really fast. Just using my punches, I was able to come up with enough embellishments from my scraps to decorate my page. I could go through and look at some of my stickers in my collection, but I'm very satisfied with this just the way it is. I was very pleased with how quickly I was able to just take a few punches and some scrap paper and make decorations for this page. If you don't have the ribbon punch, you can easily just use scissors to cut a notch. I like the ribbon punch because it just saves a little bit of time. I liked putting this anchor to give this nautical feeling, and also the circle behind it gives it a base to rest on. So the flag and the circle give the anchor a place to rest so it's not floating. So here is page number 8 made with only scraps, and I like it. I may even try to make this design again intentionally. And I'm really happy that I'm using the scraps in my stash so they aren't building up and accumulating. I'm very happy with this layout, and I hope you enjoyed watching me put it together. I also hope that you'll like and subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment, please. And also, YouTube says there's another video right here that you would enjoy watching, so please watch another.